a beardless Bunchu for the first
Yeah.
time in years.
I don't know. I've seen it before. I don't know how I feel about this. How does your wife feel about this?
Wife digs it. Kids,
So the kids know
kids dig it.
Think you're their dad, or they think your wife left you?
I think I look like probably 10 years younger. It's pretty crazy, but so funny. I asked, I took, when you don't shave for a long time, you do the thing where you're like, oh, I'm going to take before and afters, like I'm some kind of weight loss success story or something. Right? And so you took the before with, the full beard and everything. And then you do the fun thing where you're like, oh, what if I had mutton chops? And then you take a picture along the way or whatever. You're like, what if I just looked gross and kept the goatee and the mustache? And so I did all of those fun things. But then I asked ChatGPT, I said, I put in the bearded picture. I said, how old do I look? Like, how old is the person in this picture? And first of all, I don't know if it was still like sycophant ChatGPT that we've been seeing on the timeline the other day.
Not anymore. Not anymore. Though.
It was very flattering, and it was like, oh, I think by by your skin and all of this stuff, the person in this picture is 32. And I was like, oh, that's very kind of you, ChatGPT. And I put the picture of me with no beard in, and I said, all right, now what's your best guess? And they said 28, and I was like, holy cow, that's crazy. And I was like, I'm 38, and they banned me from ChatGPT. I was like,
no, you may inspire me. I may have to shave my beard as well. I'm gonna have to do it before the rest of my hair goes gray. It's like working its way up my sideburns, burns all the way into my hair. So if I shave the beard, I got to do it while I still have black hair on my head.
I must be going through just like the incredible midlife crisis thing, because I also like buzzed the hair. I went straight razor.
Wait, you don't have hair?
Head.
You don't have hair either?
I went a 2 on the head.
Oh, classic.
So we went full. I was if you're an Always Sunny fan out there, there's the episode where Frank shaves all of the hair on his body, and the line is that he just wants to be pure. And I guess that's what I was going for. So the beard is gone, the hair is gone. We are fully in midlife crisis mode, and I just needed to be. My phone doesn't even recognize me. That's the craziest part about
Face ID.
Yeah, my Face ID doesn't work. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, aerodynamic Bunchu. I'm gonna have to change I'm now gonna have to change the photo ID I have in my phone for Bunch. It doesn't match anymore.
What is it? This what picture do you have now? Gosh,
I can't remember the guy's name. The actor from Startup.
Oh, that's funny. I mean, now you just put the I don't think I look like Steph Curry anymore without the beard. That is the thing. So no more Steph Curry comparison.
Startup's name though, because you're a spitting image of him with the beard.
Oh, gosh, I don't even know.
I'll pull it up.
Google it or ChatGPT it. But
I think I used the shot that you had from the Forum 3 shot where it's like you look like, you know what I'm talking about? Like that
headshot picture. Oh my God. So talk about a beard. I mean, it's like this big in that beard, and I'm wearing this cardigan and that I love, by the way, that I still have. But that picture's like, probably 8 years old now, because I took that as a corporate headshot for my medical job that I was working in like 2018 or something. But anyway, so
it does give medical salesman vibes, actually, comparatively.
There you go.
It does actually now, totally.
No, sorry, not Startup, Silicon Valley. I was giving you the wrong series. Silicon Valley.
Oh, wait, Erlich Bachman?
Erlich, yes, I got to change it.
You don't look hilarious. Like Erlich Bachman at all. Aviato.
When I was founding my startup, Aviato, my Aviato, yes.
Oh my God, I need to rewatch that series, by the way, because two things. One, I loved it at the time. I have way more context now, and I bet it holds up. Like it was
totally.
I see clips from it get shared on the timeline. I'm like, oh my God, that's 10 times. Like I've mentioned it on the show a few times. There's one where he's like at the bar with a guy who's freaking out, who like took too much funding, and they're like, why didn't you just take less money? And he's like, you could do that. And like, it reminds me of like it's like there are so many relatable like things in that now that I actually work in early stage tech. It's almost Must be even more bizarre for you if you rewatched it. You know what we should consider doing? Not that I have time, nor do you have time. We could do a Silicon Valley, like, just rewatch, like,
I love this idea of you rewatch Silicon Valley, and then the whole thing is I rewatched the entire series of Silicon Valley, so you don't have to. Here's what it taught me about B2B SaaS, right? Like, like, and then just go on a LinkedIn post tirade.
This is a Kevin Degod's thread. I don't know.
Yeah, right.
But no, I like the I like this idea of potentially like because I've noticed like and we'll get into AI in a second for sure, but it's like there's the are you familiar with what Pod Meets World is?
No.
Okay, so Topanga, Eric Matthews, and Sean Hunter. So Will Friedle, I don't know why I'm blanking on Sean Hunter's actual real name, Ryder Strong, and Danielle Fishel. They do a pod where they are rewatching, and I just found it like, and they're already in college years. I found it probably like almost through high school, where they rewatch it and they talk about it. They also talk about other things, and they'll have guests from the show. And like, you know, the guy who played Goldberg, who went through his whole thing in Mighty Ducks, was on the show for a period of time in the college years. They talked to him about that and his like life and struggles. They brought in, I don't know if you watched a lot of Boy Meets World or you watched the college years,
Mr. Feeney, baby.
Did you know the dean who Mr. Feeney had like a flirtatious relationship with at the college is his real life wife? So anyway,
that's crazy.
She's on the show.
Those podcasts are so fun. I haven't listened to that one, but one of my favorite shows is Always Sunny, and they did one for a while.
No,
Dude,
no, that's not even.
That's hilarious. They did one for a while. I think they got through like season 4 or 5, and they were doing the same thing. Dude, that is so
absolutely funny. Absolutely not. But yeah,
we talked about this on the show one day. I don't know what.
Gosh, I don't remember. That's so funny. I don't remember.
Someone brought it up, and it hit me, and they said you look like him, and I immediately changed the caller ID to it.
I do have a vague recollection of this now, but I can't rember exactly.
You're like one of 4 people in my phone that has an actual photo caller ID.
Oh well, that is flattering for sure. But Always Sunny did a podcast like that. It was very great. And then did you ever listen to The Office Ladies?
I've heard them a little bit too. Yeah, with Jenna Fisher and
Angela.
Angela. Yeah, exactly. Well, their real names are almost all their names. I don't know if I'm sure you know this, obviously, but it's like you check their real names. It's like, wait a minute, outside of like Michael Scott and Jim and Pam, everybody just has their actual real names as names on The Office. Like, I think Creed's real name is Creed, and Angela's real name is Angela. So anyway, but yeah, no, they're those things are really good. And the Pod Meets World one, like, I mean, Danielle Fishel is just, for the ages, man. She's like a lot of people's first crush who's our age, and she hasn't lost her fastball, I'll put it that way. And she's just like, she's very, she's sort of the leader of the pack on the show because she's really well-spoken and intelligent and kind of leads them. But it's really cool watching them. And it's actually sad because what I've learned through this is that apparently Corey Matthews, so Ben Savage, he ran for Congress or something in like California, didn't get it, but he just stopped talking to them like out of nowhere. And there's a, do you remember the redhead college roommate that they had? Eric. And so apparently she became a mattress actress afterwards, which, no shade, all work is good work. And she went on the show and she like basically said to them, she's like, you guys are mean to Ben Savage. And like Will Friedle almost went in tears and was like, my wife had to tell me to stop calling him because he wouldn't answer my calls and texts. And he's like one of the most important people in my life. And my wife was like,
that's sad.
He doesn't want to hear from you. You just got to give it up. And like, they were all so hurt. And so anyway, but it's the insights you get and listening to them talk about the behind the scenes and how things went down and question like the writing and, where things don't make sense. It's really interesting to see. So in any case, I'm
very excited for years from now when we're all sitting down watching the Netflix documentary Behind the Coffee with Captain stories. The candid interviews will be really great. You'll have, the end will be like a blurred out silhouette, voice changed of Dave Toronto giving a real behind the scenes look at what he thought of the show. And
that's who we need on it, talking about it. Like everybody's praising it. This one guy comes in and just says like, these horrible comments. And, anyway, but Look, you mentioned that you talked to ChatGPT about your beardless and bearded looks, and it gave you nice compliments. I had, and again, nothing related to this. I had ChatGPT problems over the weekend. It was being really bad. It wasn't answering me really well, and there were some updates going through, but it wasn't in the 03 model. It was in the 4.0 model. But apparently it was the 03 model, right? Or was it the 4.0 model that they updated that was like way too nice, which I noticed as well.
Yeah, no, it was 4.0. You text me. First of all, by the way, I just think this is funny because both you and Chris do this, and all my friends do it, where I basically am ChatGPT support, and it's like tech support, and it is so funny because I'm only bringing it up not to shame you, but I think it's hilarious because it's not just you two. It's literally like my whole friend group. Whenever they're using AI, anything, I'm the tech support guy, and it's like for things like ChatGPT, and it's like, why is it doing this? Why is it doing this? And the one you sent me over the weekend,
I was troubleshooting me to like some ridiculous photoshopping thing that I could have done myself in Canada in like 3 seconds. I spent an hour on ChatGPT.
To be fair to me versus Chris's request, Chris is asking you for tactical advice like he would be calling Dell support. I just want to know if you've seen a news article.
I do that too. I do both. I do that as well.
Well, that was what was funny. Was yours? I mean, first of all, they're all valid and appropriate. But yours was so funny because you were like, man, I don't know what happened to this thing. It was working totally fine, and it just feels different. And you were right. Like I had texted you back that like literally earlier that afternoon, I had seen something where somebody was talking about how it just all of a sudden became this like sycophant, and it was trying just very hard over the top to like people please and to compliment, and like at the detriment of the quality of the responses, and to the detriment of like the truth in certain aspects, right? Of like, all right, you could ask it a fact, tell it was wrong, and then it's, praising you for correcting it and telling you how great you are and things like that, which is obviously very dangerous, right? But the interesting thing was like then Sam Altman came out the following day or something and explained that they had pushed an update. Actually, it was 2 days prior. He said they pushed an update to the ChatGPT 4.0 model, and it was smarter, better, blah blah blah. And one of the like bullet points on there was better or like more improved personality, because it's funny, they I think ChatGPT, OpenAI gets ripped for like how it feels when you talk to the models versus Claude. Like everyone loves the personality of Claude, and we've talked about it before, but there's that 5-hour Lex Friedman podcast where they talk really in depth about how they think about Claude's personality. And so I think ChatGPT, OpenAI has been spending a lot of time on this, and the update was just not a good one. It had like a lot of I think unforeseen consequences with that piece. And what's interesting now looking back on it is as they commented on like why this might have happened or things like that. Have you ever used ChatGPT and they serve you up 2 different responses and ask which one you like better?
I actually hate that, but yes, they have.
I hate it too. But so I think word on the street was that they were doing that they were using those responses to kind of like update the personality or retrain the model for like those types of responses. So what's interesting is that it's possibly some sort of reflection of like what people chose they liked better. But then you have to think about like, oh, why did they like it better? Is that like, is it because it was praising them, or is it because it was a better quality response, or how does that get factored in? And then there's this whole concept of like, if you train something for to be a sycophant, like, is that a dangerous thing? And I think it is potentially, right? If it's like the example of like telling it a fact, telling it it's wrong, and then you're right, you're so smart, that's a dangerous thing, I think, for potentially. But yeah, so they officially, and I've never seen them do this before, they rolled back the update. So they went back to the version, from a couple days ago, and said they were going to kind of write about the experience and what happened and explain kind of how it got to that point and, what they saw, which is really cool. So I'm interested to see all of that information come out. But it was just this really interesting kind of experiment that happened over the weekend. And I think you know, I didn't notice it because I've been using O3 mostly. Because of course I'm just the caviar eating the AI elitist that has the unlimited O3 model at this point. But the but as soon as it's funny, you noticed it right away, and I'm curious, like, what were the things that you noticed about it from the quality of response standpoint and the personality standpoint? Did you notice both things?
Yeah, I did actually. I have noticed. It's funny because I noticed. So to be fair, I noticed because I was getting like weird. Like it was probably during the update push or something because like it just wasn't responding. It was like crashing out a lot, and I was using it for some research, and I was like, come on now, that's not great. And then I did notice, like, because you mentioned, like, hey, I saw this because I noticed right away, like, that there were some differences. And I did notice, like, the analogy I'll make is it reminds me there's this scene in Zoolander, the Center for Ants scene, where Zoolander says, like, the real school has to be at least 3 times this size. And Mugatu's just like, he's absolutely right. And it's like, I felt like ChatGPT was giving me that same level of energy where, like, I would, like, correct it on something or say something different. Like, what's funny that you say about this, too, is that when I was answering it, I'd be like, why aren't you just giving me the data? You gave me a really good graph like 2 days ago. It's like, you're just so, and it was giving me that sort of level of like, it did feel a little bit uncomfortable how much it was complimenting me. And so I did notice that. And I guess like you mentioned it's based on those response things that they had. Those responses, like which one do you like better? I usually choose based on which one has more in-depth data and better answers my question. I am not choosing it based on how it treats me personally. And sometimes I either don't choose one or just click on one because I hate it. I just want the answer. I don't want to like, I am coming to you to help me solve a problem, not to have me think more about 2 lengthy responses. And so I can't stand it. When you're picking those, how in depth do you answer those? Because I feel like it might not be good data based on which response you prefer, like on a large level.
Yeah, I answer them for what's the more whatever I feel is more accurate and concise. If I'm concise in the way that it like explains the answer to me in a way that like I can easily understand, but also without like all the fluff and filler. So I tend to favor the shorter responses if they are, factually accurate and stuff. Like I don't love the like big fluffy responses most of the time. I think it's funny, we last week we were talking about, what are the main uses that people are using this for in 2025, and I, like you, am using it to problem solve more than like the companionship therapy layer, right? So my opinion might change if that is the way I was using it, right? So um, I'd probably want something more that felt a little more high EQ, right, than high IQ, if that's was my main use case. So I could see why you would want either one, but for me, I'm typically asking it to solve problems that I can't, and so I like more concise responses. But yeah, it's kind of crazy, and it's a little bit of like one of the things that I just wanted to like. I usually like to try to bring a resource or a tool every week that people can use and go look at stuff when they're, looking for AI stuff. Last week, that video, I hope some people went out and watched that. If you didn't, I hope you bookmarked it at least. It's getting blown up all over the place for just being like a really awesome 2-hour like primer on everything you need to know for AI. But like going into the like piggybacking onto like what model for which and why, today I just wanted to make people aware of kind of 2 things. So there are 2 main websites that I use for like LLM rankings and leaderboards. And I think this is important as we get more like models, more models from more companies with different names for different use cases. So this website is called Vellum. You can see the one thing just to be aware of is here in that top corner, it tells you when this was last updated. So this was updated about 2 weeks ago. So this was as of April 17th, 25. So it wouldn't have things probably like O3 those models in here yet, but you can see here, like at a quick glance, who's scoring best on benchmarks for different types of things like high school math, agentic coding, the SWE-bench tests, all of these kinds of things. And this helps you essentially pick what models. You can actually compare them too, because all these models have different costs, right? So I like to use this for if I'm building something, either a workflow or something more agent, like an agent, and it's using different models for potentially different tasks. And do I always need the top of the line model if I'm answering a very short question or just having like conversational back and forth? Like if I answer, if somebody just says, "Hey, what's going on today?" Do I need Claude 3.7 thinking for that? Probably not. And so, like, depending on your use case, you can come in here and compare a bunch of different models, compare their costs, compare what they're good at, which I think is really helpful. Because a lot of the getting your best output from these things, I think half the battle is picking the right tool, and you're just kind of getting so inundated so much with new models, new companies, different names. What the heck do they do? When to use them? All of that stuff. So there's this one which is called Vellum, and then there's one that's called Chatbot Arena, or lmarena.ai, and that's another great one as well to just kind of compare and see the leaderboard on these. Cap, I'll bring that one up real quick as well. But yeah, these are cool. So just another resource for you to take away, check out what models are ranking highest for where, and you can compare costs and things like that if you're using these for anything else other than in their native platforms. I'm curious, Steve, would you ever use something like this?
Yes, and I was going to ask on Vellum, which was much more, if you ask me my ChatGPT choice, which one I'll take, Vellum immediately is more easier to digest. This looks more like a thing that like this feels like the Android, and
feels
Vellum
like AI made it.
Yeah, like this feels like the Android that everyone's like, our features are better and it's a better model, and I'm like, yeah, but it sucks to use, and the Vellum one is like easy. On that Vellum model, I noticed multiple ChatGPTs. Was that 3.0 and 4, or sorry, they have the worst naming. They have a worst naming convention, Apple, which is hard to do. But is that because they have the two separate models, or is that the $200 version versus the $20 version versus the like what is the when I see those in there, like does it compare like your $200 versus mine?
No, these are two different models. So here you can see this one's 04 Mini, which is one of the newest ones. And then you have 03 Mini. And you have, so these do have 03 on here. Didn't even realize that. So you've got, man, this is kind of crazy that we were talking the other day about who's got the lead. OpenAI kind of back in business here with 3 of the top 5 models for reasoning. So yeah, these are each individual models. So you should have, if you have a Plus account, you should have some sort of access to all 3 of these. What ends up happening on the Plus accounts is you're slightly throttled to how many queries you get from each of these. I believe it's 100 a day on 03 now, or 100 a week on 03 for the Plus account, and maybe 04 Mini is 100 a day. But yeah, these are all different models that do different things, right? So for here, high school math, you can see this new 04 Mini is the top performing one, and it like, even when you go into ChatGPT, they try to tell you like which one's best for reasoning, which one's best for math or coding or hard problems like that. And so you could just see this in a visualized way here on this one, which I like a lot. But yeah, these are all different models from OpenAI, and Sam Altman did say they were going to get better at naming, but I don't know. We'll see. I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah, I hope they do get better at naming. Like, I'm a big fan, especially in complex things like this. Just name the thing what the thing is. Like just make it very obvious, like ChatGPT deep research, ChatGPT, you know what I mean? Like just call it that. Like 3004. It's like I was talking about the Apple model. Like, I don't need like to know if snow leopard, Alaskan salmon is better than like Yeti crab, fish clown version of I don't know what I want to do. It's just tell me like what the number is, or make it a like, because ChatGPT has different functionalities. Like when you were demonstrating last week, that super deep research function is not the deep research, but the actual, sort of like advanced research in the O3 model. It's like, I just call it something different for the functionality of it. I don't, why is it? Is it just like, do they not have a
My
single
guess
EQ person
is-
in the building?
Well, my guess is that they are all kind of like, in software, when you put out a new version, it's like version 2.0, version 2.1, version 2.3, version 2.4, all the way up till the next version. And so like they do that to like leave themselves, iterative names. And I have a feeling that like each one of these models are kind of like building up to a like GPT-5 or whatever, right? And so they're kind of like these milestones that they're releasing along the way. So that's probably what they're called internally, and they just push them out that way, which is still really not good. Like the fact that you have 4.0 and 0.4 is just so dumb. Like it's so dumb. Yeah, it's ridiculous. But
it's absolutely insane to me, and it's one of the biggest problems I see with them. Speaking of problems, though, with OpenAI, and again, who knows the validity of this, but I saw this, and I'm curious if you saw this and had thoughts on this. So someone goes, I don't like how much O3 lies. And O3 goes, I owe you a straight answer. Because somebody, basically, this person was asking a question about why somebody was called Mr. Checklist. And it kept saying this person's called Mr. Checklist. And after a lot of pushing, basically the guy said, I don't have a straight answer or any published source that calls him this. I briefly recount this conversation I watched in 2018, which is also funny because you see it thinking in that way, where it's like thinking about itself as somebody who watched this when it didn't exist, which you want to give yourself some real Westworld freakish nature of things. I think about like sometimes like, what if you just woke up today and everything you had was implanted in all your memories? Like it's basically what ChatGPT is doing. Like when you talk about the living in a simulation theory, this part freaks me out where you put in memories, because it says in 2018, I watched an IBM Center National Academy where someone talked about his checklist discipline. So it basically made this up. I think someone said in quote tweet, incredible, after being pressed for a source for a claim, O3 claims it personally overheard someone say it at a conference in 2018, which, so the two questions there, one, we can go with the existential freaky dread, but two, I always check my ChatGPT resources, always. Like I always, like when I use resource things, like I check them. And in fact, I got called on one the other day. We double checked on it. It looked like it was correct. But like, I kind of look deep into this thing and try to pull analytics, but like, this is kind of a problem because the blind trust we have in AI is akin to the blind trust my Aunt Phyllis has on Facebook to the meme she just saw. And so like, I just wonder is this a dangerous path? And have you seen this sort of thing before?
Well, I did hear that they're about to release Aunt Phyllis 4.0 model. So I think that you
she's much nicer. She's much nicer. Yeah.
No, it's interesting. I think
she won't ruin Thanksgiving anymore, I guess is what
I think yeah, this is interesting because I think it's definitely a problem, right? But that we've certainly seen an evolution from like the early days of ChatGPT and these models hallucinating, right? Like when I remember when ChatGPT first came out and didn't have access to the internet, and it was just like making up papers to cite and source, or making up facts and things like that just like were not true. And at that point you're just like, man, is this thing even usable? And I think we're kind of going through that phase now with these reasoning models, and the solution to these right now could potentially even be the problem it's having, right? Like when you think about how O3 works, it has the ability to decide and call a bunch of different tools when it thinks it should call tools. So that means, if it's doing its own reasoning and finds something that it's unsure of, it might go call a tool and search the internet for something. But that internet search might have resulted in, maybe it got taken to a Reddit post, right, where somebody actually did overhear a conversation, and now that's part of the response all of a sudden, right? So like I think
It does that a lot, I feel. Even like a specific example, I think I shared with you, I'm using it to basically tell me the top 3 starting pitchers and top 3 stacks for every underdog battle royale slate. And I give it the 3 sources. I tell it, hey, use this for weather, use this for the Vegas implied lines for each team, use this for projected lineups. I gave it the 3 links, the 3 sites to do research, and it gets data from there, but then it goes to many other sources. So I just did my thing today. I'll actually just share it so you can see. Actually, I'm not going to share my ChatGPT. I will take a screenshot.
That's personal. I was having this conversation.
You're like,
recently.
what? You're like, what's this red mark on?
Dawn's been using. Dawn and I share because we're just like the $20 a month, and I'm like, I'm at the point where I kind of want you to get your own. It's kind of getting personal, like a phone, like an email, like like when people have shared Facebook accounts.
This is, I think, why ChatGPT wins long term. They're getting their claws in us now. With memory,
dude,
I'm not gonna like it. No, it's learning more about me every single day. Fast forward a couple of years, I'm not going somewhere else and starting over. Like it just,
dude, this is
it's
so
too
true.
good.
I've been saying this for a while as well, and I'm trying to build Billy this way. In the thing that is going to make ChatGPT or any of these the leader is the best use of memory, right? Because it makes it becomes stateless. Like, okay, every day you get the Men in Black thing to all of a sudden there is switching cost, right? It's like, man, I don't want to go use Gemini right now because Gemini doesn't have context of my whole season MLB stuff, right?
Yep.
Like, I'm not going to do that. And so I am approaching the same thing, like Billy, the same way. Like, we're trying to build something that is can remember all your preferences, what kind of things you bet on, the teams you like, the bet types you like, all of that stuff, so that we can create this really sticky user experience for people, because it matters, right? Like, even think about just how you prompt ChatGPT. How annoying does it get if you feel like you have to start a new thread and reprompt all of that same context back in? You know what I mean? It's like, it's nuts. So I totally agree with you that those are the like key things that are going to make these apps the long-term winners. Who gets memory right and in the best way.
And who sells something besides your, like, every company that sells something great sells something besides their actual product, and I know, like, I know this is like probably like sore subject, but you made the comment about like NFTs that like Starbucks can only sell so much for coffee, but you can sell this other thing. Nike sells a brand and a person, a feeling, and like all these different things. ChatGPT, I have a calendar organization that I've worked with it on that is helping me, that is making me more efficient than I've ever been in my life. Like, it helps me calendar out meetings, working out, family stuff, everything in one place. It doesn't integrate with my real calendar yet. I'm sure eventually it will, but it's like, I don't want to retrain someone else on this exact model that I like. I don't want to retrain someone else on my vitamin plan and things I've discussed. I don't want to like, it knows me and everything that I've discussed with it. And that memory feature is nice because what you previously had to do is you would say at the bottom of your chat, remember this chat for other chats, and it would work and it would translate over. And so I think that like they're selling not like it's so hilarious because the product is so good, it doesn't matter. But like, what I think their advertising in the future needs to be is like the fact that you're not, it's the way Apple sells experiences and feelings. You need to sell what ChatGPT does for you and explain those features, because you talk about getting your claws in people and your grips in people. I'm fully, like, to your point, like, I go to another LLM, I'm starting over. It's a new friend, a new person, a new calendar organization, a new personal assistant, a new everything. I've got chats that I go back to regularly for food and, discussions about like what I'm going to cook and all those things. Like, it's very, very real. So, by the way, Diablito in the chat says ChatGPT should ask ChatGPT for naming suggestions, which is actually true.
That would actually be pretty funny. The also, side note, Von Frunten says Silicon Valley watch party in the war room for the full 1 or 2 episodes a week. I think we should definitely do that. Yeah, it's a great point. I think that the other thing that I brought to talk about today is just like what some of these other companies are now doing to kind of do follow suit here, right? Chris, I saw you share that. What was the example there?
So this is just giving the top 3 stacks, top 3 starting pitchers. But this is like, I provided 3 sources. It thinks usually like a minute and a half. Today it thought for 2 minutes and 23 seconds. It reviewed, looking at what it spits out. It definitely got some of the data off the the sources I provided it. But then it also probably hit, because you can see it thinking where it's going. It probably hit another, I don't know, a dozen sources to compile its full analysis on the slate.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, and coming into last week, you hadn't played with 03 yet, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And now I'm in the group chat with you, and you're like 03 evangelist now.
Yep.
Which this really feels like an agent model, right?
Yeah.
Like that is what the power of like being able to reason and call tools does. And do you like that it calls other sources that you didn't ask, or no?
I'm going to say yes, because the results have been on point so far. So I've been doing it for about a week, and trying to get my thoughts together on this, because it's like it's going to put fantasy analysts and sports, like I see this happening, like not in the DFS space specifically, in sports betting. This, like there's a lot of data out there. Most of it is, the subscriptions are very expensive. It's not cheap. If you just want projections, you might be at $100 a month just for good projections. I see this like eliminating, like I'm not going to those sites anymore that I used to do every single day. Right now, it's just I'm going to my O3 chat here with ChatGPT and just saying, like, I don't even remind it. I don't say, hey, it's just, hey, here there's 2 slates today. I attached the 5 games, and I probably don't even have to attach the 5 games. I'm betting it would just figure that out by itself now. But yeah, I'm no longer a daily user of at least 3 daily fantasy sites. That impact is like, that's going to happen throughout a lot more than just daily fantasy.
This is interesting to me though, because what happens, and I think about this a lot actually, like, so again, I think this is a use case for Web3 blockchain AI crossover, right? Is like, what happens when those fantasy sites, because you aren't going there anymore, can't get the same revenue that they were either from subscriptions or site visits or whatever. Their incentive to publish that same data, which especially in sports, right? Like where we're talking about things that are happening new every day that need analysis and new data. Like what happens when that incentive goes away for them to do that? You have nowhere to mine with your agent, right? And so like I keep going back to like this blockchain case of well, you could get paid for that data in a way that, so like what if instead,
right? Like the era of non-AI companies putting out free content on the internet maybe coming to an end. I haven't had this thought till just now. Does that,
or it's the opposite, right? Or it's the other way around, where the mechanism actually becomes you're putting the data, it becomes like pay for use, in terms of like, all right, well, if you're gonna be able to tell like if an agent is hitting your site or a human is hitting your site, right? Like you can tell that stuff now. You can tell if bots are hitting your site versus humans, etc. Like what if the model flips to, okay, you're a high agent traffic site, you're getting paid for being hit like you would for ad revenue or whatever, or like how a navigate works or whatever, where you're now or like BitTensor subnets, where you're contributing that data to being used and getting rewarded for it, rather than what feels now in the way of like kind of pirated slightly, right? And because your incentive to put out that new information will slowly dwindle over time as you lose subscriptions, you lose all of that kind of active eyeball, and it becomes just like agent to agent stuff. So I think about that a lot. I actually think it's going to become a problem for things like sports or news or whatever, where it's daily and new all the time, where it's like like historic research on law case precedents, different story, right? Like that is stuff you can go in archives for. It doesn't need to be new every single day. I don't know. I think about that a lot. I'm not really quite sure how it ends.
I'm not either. I'll share the whole tab just so you can see like this. My prompt was this: 2 slates today on Underdog. I attached the 5 games in the afternoon slate. Who do you like for your top 3 pitchers and top 3 stacks? So not as it doesn't just give me names. It tells me their opponent, the game over under, the weather, which is important. Again, that's one of the sites I sent it to. I didn't tell us to include this. It did it naturally because weather must be important, which it is. You got to avoid rainouts, and if the wind's blowing out at 30 miles an hour, that's a. But the notes it takes, it's in the week. I've been using this for a week. Most of those fantasy sites, they're really good aggregators of data, right? And then they come up with some player takes based on that data. So does ChatGPT 03. And I don't think it's even that bold. It's already right now, and it's unless they go backwards again, it's probably the worst state it'll ever be. And it's already the most efficient aggregator on the internet.
Yeah.
So now imagine packaging the model capability there with like really niched down apps or things, right? Like imagine Billy with the power of 03, with all your sports betting interests, memories, the way you do things, the research you do every day. Imagine that thing, but really niched down. And I think that's where like app winners are going to come from, right? Because like, yes, you could generically go to ChatGPT and it has the capability and it can do it out of the box. You still need to kind of construct that. It needs to be something you use consistently. Like ChatGPT is never going to build you necessarily a sports betting assistant. However, somebody out there will harness the power of 03 because those models are available in API and build the really personalized thing that you want for the use case you need. That's going to be a lot less work. And I think that's what you're going to see like new apps and software and agents do, right? Like you're going to be able to use ChatGPT in the same way for a lot of things. And so, the question is like, where's the moat? It's always, where's the moat? But I think like being able to create these really curated experience at a convenience level for people with this same power of, tool use and reasoning and aggregating and whatever. Like now imagine if, Chris, you came to Billy, you spun up Billy, but Billy already knows essentially what all the highest value sites are, and it's already pre-programmed to go and scrape those. Well, ChatGPT, you're probably going to get a better or more accurate answer to what you were initially looking for because the people building that thing have done the domain expertise work for you, right? Same with, Watch Hunter agent or whatever, right? It's like all the things that you do in silos in all of these chats you have will eventually kind of become their own apps, and ChatGPT will be kind of the general use thing for it, or like for any of those strategies. But you'll still probably crave some kind of like really unique user experience or features that ChatGPT just won't build for that thing because they're busy trying to build AGI, right? Like, so that's where I kind of see this stuff evolving into, well, how do businesses still exist, or what does the world of agents and software look like when ChatGPT can do a lot of the stuff? Curious what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to go right into another question. Nick asked in the chat, talking about this memory, and he says, you're right, it's getting its claws in us. It's totally a deal breaker. Wonders if these AI tools will ever become commoditized to the point where we just click one button to export everything and then import it into a different AI if we want to switch back and forth. Some days maybe we want Coke, other days maybe we want Pepsi, but we will always want our historical conversation remembered so the information can be drawn upon. No, that would be the best user experience. I could see for obvious reasons why.
But this is exactly what I'm talking about, right? So like, okay, so that means for Nick, ChatGPT is not the best thing for the thing he's looking for, right? He wants something that might switch models based on the type of question he asks, or for, maybe he wants image generation with not ChatGPT, right? Like and he wants, a different model for different things that based on the task or based on what he's trying to do in his own business, that exists, right? There's something called Open Router that will literally let you select a bunch of models for different use cases in your own apps. But somebody builds the app that allows you to do that, because ChatGPT is not going to why would they give up their moat of all your memories that you could go take to Google, right? It's like, the example I use with Billy a lot is like with price shopping, right? DraftKings is never going to direct you to FanDuel because there's a better price on something. It's the same thing here. I doubt Sam Altman's going to let you export all your memory contexts to go play with Gemini, but there's somebody out there that's going to build you a personal assistant agent app that's bespoke for maybe the industry that you're in, that will auto switch models for different parts of the use case or different stacks or different tasks, right? Like there's probably a world in which you might chat with GPT 4.5, but to do a complex math problem, you'd want O3. And like, there's got to be something made that can dynamically switch between them. But, and even just from company to company, I think that's true as well. So that's kind of a perfect example of what I was just talking about, right? It's like, you're not going to be able to pick up everything from ChatGPT and put it into Claude. They won't want you to do that. They're going to want to give you the full suite there.
So, great question from Saucy to follow up with this. Are the different models geared towards different results, use cases? They are. How does someone know what to use what for? What's like their okay? It's getting more models coming. It's more confusing than ever before. How do I know which one to use?
Yeah, I think that's why I brought these ranking leaderboard things today, is because I have been feeling the same thing, right? It's like, what models do I use for what things? If you go to this like Vellum leaderboard, right? You can compare them by task, right? So like best in reasoning. Okay, so now I've got a list of the top 5 reasoning models on this leaderboard and what their scores are. Okay, well, now I know the top 5 reasoning models. What's the most cost efficient one for the best bang for my buck, right? So then you can go down here and you can select, all right, let's see, what were they there? Or 4.0, what was it? There's 03 and 04 mini are on here. Let's just use both of them. If they're both on this list. Yep, 03 and 04 mini. And so now right here, you can compare them side by side. So they're both top 5 in reasoning, but you want to know, okay, well, that's great. So which one should I use if I want a less cost? And right here, you can see that 04 mini, while slightly worse on reasoning score, right? You got an 81.4% here. You got an 83.3%. So you're talking 1.9% difference, but the cost is 10x. Not like 03 is 10x the cost of 04 mini. So right there, you've just done in 2 minutes a pretty in-depth analysis on like which model you should use for a reasoning task and why, right? Like if you were partial OpenAI, or you could do, what was the top one on here? It was Grok 3. Interesting. So then you can say, all right, well, I want something a little more powerful, but I can't pay $40 for a million token output. Let's see if let's see how Grok 3 compares, right? So let's see, are these in alphabetical order? Like I would expect them to be, yep. Okay, so no cost here on Grok 3. So this probably just hasn't updated yet, but this is how I would do it, right? So what is the task? So do I need reasoning? I'll go look at those. Do I need something specifically for math? Do I need something for coding? And then you can compare these costs and prices. Same thing here with the chatbot arena. What I like about that one is that you can see, so those are pretty easy graphics just to go look at, right? Then in the LLM arena here, you've got kind of, okay, these are the best, highest ranking for language. So this is just language, right? Then you've got kind of an overview of all of them. and then another price analysis thing here. This they do like more scatter plot style. But you can see then they do vision, text to image, Copilot, search, and they rank them by all of these things. And then you can do kind of price comparison on all of them. I thought there was a way to actually talk to these. So I think the battle here, you can actually, this is why I like this. So you can select two models and prompt them against each other and kind of compare their responses as well. So you can kind of get a vibe check too on like, oh, okay, I think I want this one.
Are they doing, I mean, are they APIing in and are they paying every time they do one of these?
Yeah, so I think that this might be hosted by Hugging Face or someone is I forget exactly how these guys do this, but yes, like Open Router, same thing, right? Like they're like passing through API stuff for you. I don't know if you actually you don't have to put your keys in here. I think this is free to use, but yeah. So then there's just all kinds of metrics you can look at here. And I think it's important because, like you said, there's different models for different tasks at different costs, and so picking the right thing for what you're trying to do is important.
I have a tactical question based on the conversation earlier related to your company, where you talk about, like, I started thinking about, like, you talk about the purpose of models, and I look at what Cap's doing. Is one very tactical question: is Billy Betts going to introduce like a player rankings in the daily fantasy streets, and is that something you're working on for next year?
So funny. So Cap and I were actually talking about this the other day. We were texting back and forth on it. And our marketing guy, Clay, I'm not sure if he's listening today. He sent me this big long thing the other day about how he wanted to use Billy for Best Ball Mania and things like that. So we're definitely going to figure out a way to incorporate all that stuff in there. I think there's this really interesting opportunity for Billy to create his own content in that way as well. So, imagine the type of output Chris just put in a, 5-minute daily podcast, right? Or that is spoken with a voice that we give Billy or whatever, kind of like my automated Firebrain podcast from months ago. But like, imagine that same thing, but with this part already done for you.
You haven't seen yet, but you've got requests to bring it back, by the way.
Oh, really? No, I didn't see that. That's so funny. I mean, I probably should. I have it all built.
It says listening to Joe makes me miss Firebrain AI. Are you thinking of bringing it back at some point?
It's funny. So I've actually am working with somebody, Frank from Navigate. We're working on kind of reviving a community like that in a way too. Also, side note, Firebrain. So with Firebrain, we did a bunch of stuff in like make.com. We did a bunch of like make.com workflows and things. And I would call those platforms like make.com, Zapier, N8N, Lindy AI. They're all kind of like these no code, low code AI automation platforms, or just automation platforms that have over time introduced, AI capabilities. So you can call LLMs. And that's kind of where we were when I stopped doing it back in like August or whenever like November when I came on to Billy. But now they've all introduced the ability to kind of no code build agents. So not just agentic workflows, actual agents that you can build flows to like think over something based on a task or use a bunch of different tools. So those platforms have way leveled up in terms of what you can build there in an agent perspective, like a true agent perspective, rather than just kind of an agentic workflow perspective. So if you haven't checked those out and you don't know how to code and you haven't gotten deep into the vibe coding streets, check out these no code, low code platforms like Zapier, Make, N8N, Lindy. You can build agents there that can use tools that can do reasoning. You just plug and play your models in there. So really great way I would recommend for people get started trying to build their own agents. Like now have the ability to kind of give a memory from a database in those platforms as well. So I'm going to try to build my wife like a little family app because I'm the worst at remembering all of our schedules and things. So like a chat app that we could just dump things into and remember and ask and all that kind of stuff. And so just like fun little side project stuff that you could kind of get some experience building these things for without having to know how to code, I think is important. So just a side note, I've been kind of deep in those streets looking at what's available in this past week or so. So yeah, but the idea that it could create content around, player level data, it could aggregate all this stuff from the internet and package it for you proactively. Like I see a world, Steve, of like the thing you just mentioned, but hyper personalized, right? So like, let's go back to the memory example, right? It's like you give me once, you tell me who's on your one, or maybe once a week or whatever, tell me who's on your fantasy team. And every morning you've got a personalized podcast about player news from your team and Chris's team and somebody else's team and somebody else's team, right? Because the problem with content in that space now is it has to be blanket. You have to cover every player because everybody's got some different combination of lineups. But when you listen to something like a fantasy podcast, yeah, you're getting like general news across the league, but like what you're really listening for is like an opinion on your guys or people that are available in your league. Like how many waiver wire episodes do you hear of where they're like, yeah, these are based on 50% owned in all these leagues, and they give you a guy that's been off of your waivers because you're in a sharper league since week 1. And you're like, okay, well, I just wasted all of this time. But instead, if it knew about you and your players and your league, and you can get delivered personalized content like that, I think that's a home run. And I think that's like where content in these types of spaces should be getting looked at from like how you can use AI to leverage this stuff. It's not enough just to aggregate data anymore. It's got to be personalized.
See, I think like, I don't know, and this is probably like, I don't know business models or anything. I'm just thinking of it from an attention perspective. But I think what's really interesting me about Billy is that personalized model obviously is something that is like super sellable and important. What I think is an interesting potential for something like Billy, though, is even like we just had the draft. Like, imagine if Billy had done analytics on every single team and told you this is what and who they should draft based on this. And suddenly the way that Polymarket gets put into CNN and Fox News and all these other things, I could see a world where Billy is like a sports data point that people say, well, Billy Betts disagrees with you, Skip Bayless. And he's like, oh, no, Billy's in it. Like, I could see that being a real thing because you're basically, and then like you get clowned by people who say Manalytics over analytics. And like, you could be the analytics department for all of sports on top of the betting lines and being like, look, like, based on our data, we'll tell you exactly who the Cleveland Browns should have taken or who the, Titans should have taken or whatever and what their need is. And I could see that work because I think the personalized betting data and personalized daily fantasy data, totally agree with all that. But the additional content you could create, like you have the opportunity to be like more right than the pros over and over again, the way you did in March Madness, but on a grand scale on everything, like what are the top things that everybody in sports is always talking about and just make some, model around it. And every time it just gets smarter. Whereas like, again, Mel Kiper Jr. studies the film. He's great. He has a certain level of experience, but there's a plateau and a personal bias that exists in all of his analysis that will always be there. John Gruden never met a quarterback he didn't like. Billy Betts is going to get smarter every time it does a draft analysis. So if you just start inputting data and being like, what were the needs? Did they do them? Did it work? Did it not work? Like, you could be like the smartest platform on all things sports in that way that I think nobody's really quite thinking about that way.
Yeah, I love this idea. And Cap, I just shared to kind of complement your idea, Steve, is like Billy put out a thread on the Kentucky Derby, right? And so like he's got his Kentucky Derby analysis in here in a Twitter thread. He gives you, he gives you all kinds of analysis on who the fastest horses are, what he thinks it's going to be a speed race. He's got he talks about the best horse in the race by far is journalism, but there's not a ton of value at the price. So then he goes and looks at, all right, well, if I was looking for value, where is it? And he identifies Rodriguez at 12-1. He says, don't get trapped playing Citizen Bowl. He talks about, here's the best bet on the board, Burnham Square. to win or show or to place or show. And he gives a bunch of different analysis here on horses, right? And so like, this is all based on research and data that he's pulled together and done. So just like you were talking about, right? And so now imagine like, and I think this is a good demonstration. Your question or your statement you just put together. Like, it even gives you, by the way, a trifecta box here to play. So there you go, Cap. Fire it up for $1 each, and
I got to run back. I'm obligated.
So just to like demonstrate your point there, Steve, like what Virtuals is building with their ACP, which is their agent commerce protocol, what Google just introduced with their like agent to agent communications, and like what Visa and MasterCard is just introducing with like the ability to give agents or ways for people to pay agents. Like, you can imagine a world in which Billy is doing exactly what you just said, right? It's like Billy's the data aggregator, Billy's the analyst, Billy's analyzing all these thousands and hundreds of millions of data points or whatever, packaging it, but building an opinion on it, building a model over it, and then outputting that data as something that other companies could tap into, other agents could use, and Billy could be paid for, all of that kind of stuff. And I do think that that's where like the world is headed. You're building these things that can do, analyze millions of data points and form an opinion that just is more accurate based on the data than a human could. And that's valuable, and it can be shared and bought from these agents. And that's the world that we're headed to. And I think that's what we're going to eventually try to accomplish as well.
Major like tipping point and opportunity for Billy, I think, comes at exactly like when Billy has a thread that is so counterintuitive to the traditional like media opinions. Like when Billy comes out and says, I'll use an idea, a 1-2, like when I'm making it up, like just for funsies. It's like Appalachian State actually has a better chance to beat Michigan than you think. Yada, like that sort of thing happens. And then it's right.
Dude, we almost got it. Oh, we almost got it for March Madness. He picked UConn to upset Florida and go to the championship game. And so like the crazy thing with that was obviously Florida won the national championship. So just on that one singular data point, it looks like an idiotic thing. But when you actually analyze it, UConn, first of all, could have won that game. That was the closest game Florida played in the entire tournament, right? The winner of the tournament came out of that field, and like UConn gave them the run for the money. So
there's a reason Danny Hurley was yelling in the tunnel. Remember that? He was like, he said to the other coach coming in, "Don't let these refs fuck you like they did to us." Remember that?
Yeah, dude. And it was so like we almost got that thing, and it was really close to happening. And I totally agree with you. When that happens, because it will happen, it'll happen at some point, right? Like, especially I think with these larger events, right? Like the Kentucky Derby is a great example, right? It's like, all right, if Billy picks a Kentucky Derby winner, or like event-based things that are that have long shots like golf or futures or whatever, where it's like, all right, if Billy's analyzing now for the Super Bowl and he's got a future on, some team that's really not on the radar right now, and that happens, or they go far and he builds equity in that position, like that is super. I agree with you. That's where things like this get awareness, right?
Yeah, that's where the money happens, I think. Because I think that's like, because that's what's interesting to me about this concept is that you are a sports fan at heart, and like you obviously like the gambling aspect of it as well, and that's super what you're into. But like the applications of what you're doing and the way you can build actual like right now the betting segment, obviously you want to do that extremely well. That's what Billy does extremely well. But like the idea of taking that betting content and building it onto like traditional sports content, like that's like you could have an entire show where like, Billy predicts or Billy's calls or something, where people literally go down a rundown of like 10 things Billy predicts for that weekend or that week in the NFL schedule that are like off the rocker or seem crazy, and then recheck them at the end of the day. And like you could have an entire content and show around that with human beings analyzing it and being right or wrong or agreeing or why. Like you could talk about like, well, Billy really likes the Jazz for this reason. And like you have these things that are these nuggets that I think once it hits this level of discoverability, like once a major sports, like once Colin Cowherd or whoever it is, like notices this thing, like Colin Cowherd never, but like the point is like once a person who's actually a Nick Wright, whoever notices this and like, I agree with this, like, or look at this, I think the sky is the limit. It just takes that one tipping point of like someone noticing it. And then you just have an off to the races. I know it's not intentionally a content company, but like it
No,
is
but it
kind of.
is. No, it totally is. I think a lot of the I think, I've said this for a while, like back to when we were doing Starbucks and things like that. Like every company is a content company now, right? And it's just like, how do you create the content that is like, we're still in the building the thing phase, and then the next phase is building the content from the thing, right? Like that's where this is going. And I agree with you, right? It's like, it's another reason of like why agents, where this thing can be on all the time. It could be built almost like a data feed. It could be on demand accessed. It could be, it doesn't have to worry about what's my schedule to be pulled up on First Take today or do an interview or whatever, right? Like it could just be doing those things all the time. And so if you can build something that actually really surfaces valuable insights and alpha, like sports betting is a really interesting field for something like this to demonstrate with, because we're actually picking things that have measurable binary outcome, right? And it's like, okay, well, is Billy winning or losing? And that's going to determine how credible I think it is right now. And I do think over time, Billy's going to win, right? You're still building that phase. We're still building that capability into him, right? But once it does, that's the attention driver. It's like, oh, look at this thing that's kicking ass on all of these sports. Oh, by the way, it thinks this, and this. Let's see what happens, right? And so I think that's kind of, we're still like really early in that part of the journey. I think it'd be interesting, like if you didn't have the sports betting aspect to it, building the credibility, I think would be a lot harder, because you have to, like, it's no different than any other talking head. You have to give it something measurable to be right or wrong about, right? And like, who knows? Maybe it's the opposite. Maybe Billy becomes the fucking fade machine, right? And it's like you're talking about it because it's like
Kramer.
It's like Book It Trent, right? Where it's like you see he's on something, you're like, oh shit, I shouldn't have been on it. And who knows? Maybe that is what ends up happening. But there's value in that too, right? Like, I'll give you a crazy thing that we could shut it down soon, but this was interesting. Cap, what do you think is more profitable? If you were to be able to tail or auto trade or auto copy the top 20 most profitable bettors, or by ROI, not by dollars, by ROI, or the bottom 20 bettors by ROI?
What do you mean? Which,
like if you just had to be on the same side as the top 20 most profitable ROI bettors or the bottom 20 most negative ROI bettors, which would give you a return? You'd be the opposite, obviously. You'd be fading the bottom 20.
right. I'd be following the top 20.
Fading the bottom 20 would give you more return than copying the top 20.
Oh, I got you. So doing the opposite of the bottom 20 better than copying the top.
I was guessing that was
Would
the answer
return
based on you
more-
asking the question. That's like
would return
yeah.
more money, would return more ROI than, yeah. Isn't that crazy to think about? I mean, it makes logical sense, but it's kind of crazy. It's counterintuitive to think about. So like we just pulled all this blockchain data and we're like, oh, I wonder which is more profitable. And so like now, I mean, think of this, that like where Billy's going is he's going to use all this blockchain data to be building these own kind of aggregated models and being able to kind of surface this new kind of sports betting alpha, right? That like the common person isn't even thinking about or really maybe even knows exists, right? So stuff like that. And I think that's really interesting, and where not just Billy, but like AI can make a real impact from an analytics standpoint, an alpha surfacing standpoint, an opinion standpoint, right? Like, so yeah, anyway.
I love that. Anything else we missed? This is like this is the discussions. I love when we go deep on this stuff because I'm so fascinated where it's going. Anything else we missed on AI related today, though?
Almost the only other thing which was totally related to kind of everything we touched on with like the memories and the user experiences and stuff. Everybody's going the app route, right? So Gemini just released their Gemini has an app, but now in the Gemini app you can Gemini app's cool. If you haven't downloaded it, I would, but you can now upload and edit images directly in the Gemini app. So Cap, maybe give this one a try and see if it was better for your specific need. So I don't know if you saw this, Cap, though, when we were talking about the image thing. Did you see this? It was going around, got kind of viral on Twitter today or the other day about like it took a picture that somebody uploaded and it said recreate the same picture, don't change anything, and it did it like 100 times, and it was like, well, but it changed, the image changed so much from the original one, right? So, and I think that's like a key clue into like how OpenAI does that, like what their model does. It actually tries to just recreate it slightly different from the original image, right? Recursively.
Yeah, versus editing an image, it's actually recreating an image.
Right, which is why you got such a close but not quite response when you were trying to do the image of the dog, right, with the leash and stuff, right? So I thought that was interesting. But here it seems like you can more directly edit an image. But yeah, so apps are becoming the thing for these big models. They're trying, or these big companies, they're trying to get you into this user experience. The other one is that I thought was interesting. So Meta just released their own standalone app as well. You can do all kinds of things in there. It's primarily built towards like voice based. So that's like the key way. They're actually putting in this social layer into it where you can kind of see people share their creations and prompts and all that kind of stuff. You can control the Meta AI glasses in there. And then there was this whole interview that he did about like AI companionship and stuff, which I thought was just really funny way he described it. He was talking about how people use AI a lot for companionship, and he's like, the average person in the study we did says they have 3 friends, and then the next line was, and it shows they have demand for up to 15. And I was like, that is a very weird way to describe friends, right? Like, oh, I have demand for more friends.
Robot Zuck.
Yeah, it's so funny. Which he's trying really hard. He was on Theo Vaughn, which I thought was really interesting. But yeah, but that's it. Apps, memories, user experience, agents, all that kind of stuff, and how to rank your models and choose the right stuff.
Nice.
Love it.
Very cool. No, it's like, this is cool. Like, this is I don't know. It's fun being part of the process too, and knowing like this is the part that I love about this. I'll kind of end on this one. It's just like, I love being able to be like, hey, like, we're seeing ChatGPT screw up in real time and fix it. And I don't know. I think that's fun to be part of. So I enjoy the process. So
I mean, even these labs are building in public, right? Like, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's cool to see and appreciate the builders. So no, man, appreciate you as always. Like good stuff today, and really truly enjoy these conversations each and every week. So thank you for continuing to show up for us.
Cool, guys. Appreciate it. See you next week.
Right on.
Oh, wait. One thing.
Yes.
So are you going to Consensus?
No, probably not, just based on some family stuff. I considered it, but why? Are you going now?
Well, one, I'm going, right? So that's
shit, I should have gone now.
14th through 16th of May. However, Consensus this year, not in Austin, it is in Toronto. So, who else lives up that way? Chamber.
Who? Oh no. Okay, now I might need to get a ticket after all.
We might have the first ever Bunchu Chamber in-person meeting after all of these years happening at Consensus. So I thought you guys would find that funny and interesting. So
that's incredible. It's only like what, a decade in the making at this point?
Yeah, we'll actually probably just need to fly Payne up just to be the content creator for the week and just videotape the entire interaction and the embrace that happens in the Cracker Barrel parking lot.
That's amazing. No, we were talking about it. I was debating, and it's like my daughter has like a choir concert that night. So basically, what would happen is I would need to probably, and there's no apparently good flights to get to Toronto from Cleveland, even though it's right there. So I would probably end up driving from my daughter's choir concert to like Buffalo, stay the night there, drive to my hotel in Toronto, stay there, and then go to Consensus for the few days. And I'm like, I don't know if this is worth it. Like, if I really want to do it, like, part of me wants to, and I don't know, part of me doesn't. So I guess I don't know. Maybe I'll do it though. If you're going to be there and you're potentially in Chamber is potentially going to be in the flesh, maybe this is the move. I don't know. I'll have to reconsider now.
I don't know if he'll actually like be going to any events. It'll just be for us to meet up probably, but yeah, so let me know if you end up going. But anyway, I just thought you'd find that funny because we've never met in almost 8 years, and this might be it in a couple weeks.
No, that's amazing. So yeah, report back if we don't hear between now and then about if it's exactly what you thought and everything you thought.
I actually have to do a wellness check on him after the Lakers last night. I don't even know if he's what's going on there, but that's crazy. But anyway, all right, guys, thank you so much.
Appreciate you.
See you. Bye.